Louise Hunter. This is a good one. She started her impressive career as a stunt double for Linda Carter in Wonder Woman, but of course, she progressed on to a diverse career in comedies such as Sorority Shenanigans, horror movies such as Angry Cheerleader, and of course, how could we forget her performance opposite James Bond in The Spy Who Ate All My Doritos. With her speech, I am a chameleon. Please welcome Louise Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I am a chameleon. I change my communication style depending on the situation. Chameleons are ectothermic and cannot generate their own body heat. One desert chameleon uses color change as an aid in thermoregulation, becoming black in the early morning when it's cool to absorb more heat, and turning light gray in the afternoon to absorb less heat. Chameleons also use changes in skin coloration and pattern for social signaling, such as sex. They show brighter colors during aggression and darker colors during submission. Pathways describes 4 communication styles: direct, initiating, supportive, and analytical. Today, I will share a short personal story to illustrate each communication style. In his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey taught us to seek first to understand, then be understood. And today, we are told to develop empathy with our audience before we try to give our message. One way to connect with the audience is by asking questions. However, the key to effective communication is listening to their responses. At an annual accounting conference a few years ago, I took the lead in a breakout session of accounting faculty. Knowing that accountants tend to be goal-oriented, I used the direct communication style and asked if anyone had a problem that they would like to bring before the group. A University of Wyoming professor spoke up and shared that the emotional tone in her department had recently deteriorated from being very happy to extremely stressful, and she wasn't sure why. After a bit of discussion, I suggested that we look at the problem from a broader perspective. Recalling that I had recently heard of mandatory budget cuts for the state of Wyoming, I asked if there might be a connection between the state budget cuts and the stress among the accounting faculty. In an aha moment, the professor confirmed, yes, that is quite possible. Sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. My next story illustrates the initiating communication style. I test on the border between introversion and extroversion, leaning towards extroversion among people I do not know. Several years ago, I attended a personal life planning conference in Hana, Hawaii, with about 15 other people. During the week, we worked in pairs on our assignments to present to the group. My CPA partner and I had so much fun with one of the topics that we broke out giggling hysterically during our presentation. Our unexpected humor infected the entire group, prompting the host to ask me if I had ever done stand-up comedy. Of course, I just shrugged and smiled. The subject of my third story today is parenting skills. As a parent raising a son and a daughter, I used the supportive style. I learned early on that raising children is like walking a tightrope. Just as soon as I thought I knew what they would do in a certain situation, they didn't. So I would have to learn and grow right along with them. In kindergarten, example here, our son couldn't color within the lines or skip on right one foot to save his life. As a classroom volunteer, I noticed that many of the children in the classroom didn't really have the fine motor skills they needed to do those sorts of things. And so I went to the principal and I presented my observation. He wasn't interested at all. He says, "Oh, don't worry, lady. We always have parents here trying to improve their children's performance." He says, "Your son will level out." And similarly, when our daughter was in this Christian preschool, she did not like it. I won't go into details, but I decided to go ahead and put her in a Montessori school where she could be more active and experiential, more like herself. The fourth communication style, analytical, is near and dear to my heart. I am a Virgo. I analyze. During my accounting career, I started out by sharing lots of facts and figures and problem-solving methods with my students. But I soon realized that I also needed to employ the direct, initiating, and supportive styles of communication, as well as any other tool I could find in my toolkit, such as offering learning activities for auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learners. Ultimately, I learned that students are more likely to remember how they felt in my classes and if they were engaged in it, rather than the subject matter details. I am a chameleon. I have the ability to change my communication style depending on the situation and the people involved. I challenge each of you to know your audience, seek to understand using good listening skills, and be understood by speaking clear, concise language. And most important, effective communication is situational.